Jolyon. I'm one of the co-founders of ZB Live and Flight 3. So thanks so much for everyone coming down and all the speakers and the moderators. It really does take a lot of hours to coordinate it all, but we have got a star-studded panel coming up. And Stand with Crypto is something I'm super passionate about. Running an event in the UK, just over the last 4 years, we've grown to 3,500 people, 200 speakers. So it's been really important. But importantly, over the last year, with the regulation coming in, lots of the sponsorships going to Dubai, other places in Europe, and it's really important that the UK gets clarity on these things and we can actually keep fostering the amazing innovation that can and should be happening in the UK. So without too much further ado, Katie, can you, I guess, give the audience a bit of a flavour and understanding of what is Stand with Crypto and why have we brought it over to the UK?
Sure, and thank you very much for having me, Jolly. It's great to be here. So I'm Katie Harries. I'm actually Director of International Policy at Coinbase, but I'm here as Stand with Crypto in the UK. For those of you who are not familiar with Stand with Crypto, this is actually a movement that was born in the US to drive regulatory clarity. Now, in the US, they have 1.5 million advocates for Stand with Crypto. It's been a hugely impactful movement, both in terms of the Fit 21 vote, but also now in the election coming up in November. And because of that impact, we wanted to bring Stand with Crypto to the UK. Now, there's obviously a very different political and regulatory environment in the UK, so we want to adapt it. So what are we trying to achieve in the UK? We want to promote a very positive policy and business environment for blockchain technology and crypto assets across the UK. How we're doing that? We want to galvanize the whole community so that we all speak with one voice. I always think there's lots of different sub-communities within the Web3 ecosystem, so we want to bring the whole grassroots community together. But I think most importantly, what we're trying to do with Stand with Crypto is to shine a spotlight on all the founders that are driving real-world use cases, that are driving jobs, growth, innovation in local communities across the UK. And actually, I always say that founders are the best advocates for our sector. And the reason for that is because if we want to win on policy or on regulation, we really have to win the hearts and minds of policymakers on the social utility of the technology. And I think that is absolutely crucial and core to the aim of Stand with Crypto. So one of the things that we're doing, one of the first things we've done is build our partnerships. So we're working very closely with Outlier Ventures, with Solana, Animoca, Polygon, many other partners to work together to try and get the message out there. We've also had a number of really exciting events in Parliament. We did an event at the House of Commons recently where we had representation both from the government, so we had ministers from government, but also from the shadow government, which was Labour at the time. And I thought what was really interesting about those events is that the policymakers, they'd come back and they were hearing from all the founders who'd heard that several people on the stage up here gave little talks, gave pitches about their businesses. And the MPs came away and they said, you know what, I thought I was coming to a technology event where I was learning about the blockchain. And actually, I had no idea that this was touching so many different parts of the economy, from telecoms to transport to environmental issues. And I think that's just so exciting that it's opening their eyes to realize this is like a cross-cutting technology that has the potential to revolutionize all parts of our society and our economy. So we've been getting great feedback on our events. We had a very positive event with the Labour Mayor, Andy Burnham, who was totally new to blockchain technology and crypto assets. We did a roundtable with him up in Manchester with lots of businesses in his local area. And he came out of that and said, wow, this is such a fantastic event. And he came out and said, you know what, I stand with crypto. This is what Manchester's all about, and how do I get involved? And that's really what we're trying to do, is explain to policymakers the value of the technology and how they can get involved. But I think just more generally in terms of what we're trying to achieve, we actually put out a manifesto over the election campaign. There were 7 recommendations there, but just to give you a flavour of some things that we're asking for. First of all, we really want a positive tone from the top. I think it's very easy to underestimate the value of our political leaders saying positive things about our technology. And if they give that positive signal that the UK is open for business, then it will give firms like all of ours the confidence to invest and to grow in the UK. So that political tone is and political message is really, really important. The second piece is obviously regulatory clarity. We were expecting a number of very positive pieces of legislation to be laid just before the election. They were put on hold. We are hoping that they're coming down the pipeline very, very soon. But we need regulatory clarity on staking. We need legislation on stablecoins. And we need a broader regulatory framework for crypto assets, because we can only innovate and invest and grow if we know the guardrails, the parameters in which we can innovate. And then just finally on our manifesto, the third piece we asked for was just a cross-government strategy for blockchain technology. I think a lot of us go and speak to the Treasury about regulation because it's the Treasury that are developing the rules. But actually, if the UK really wants to get on the map in terms of the technology, we really need a cross-government strategy that should be led by the Department of Business, it should be led by DCIT, the department that's looking at science, innovation, and technology. Because I think there's something really spectacular happens if you focus on frontier technologies. So how blockchain can interact with AI and quantum and to create those superclusters of new technologies, I think we can really drive economic growth for the UK. And that's what the government's really focused on. It's really focused on driving economic growth. And I think our sector has a really important role to play in that. So that's probably enough from me. But what I will say is, how can you all get involved? We would all love you to sign up for Stand With Crypto. We really want advocates for this movement. It's a true grassroots movement. We really want to do more in local communities across the country. So if you have a meetup or you've got a broader ecosystem group, we've done a lot with the Manchester Blockchain Alliance. They've been a fantastic partner of ours, but we want to reach out and do more. So if you're having a meetup, let us know. We'll come and speak. We might just pay for your pizzas, who knows? And then just finally, we want to find the best use cases in the UK. I said that the founders are the best spokespeople for their industry. For the industry, you really are. So we've got a competition at the moment that we've launched, which is we're on a mission to find the UK's best use cases through Stand With Crypto. So we would love you to put forward projects, come and speak to us, tell us about what you're building, and we'd love to engage with you more. So we're here for the rest of the day, and we would love to learn more about your businesses.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. And Katie, yeah. I think picking up one of your points, it's undeniable that blockchain and Web3 is such a high growth, talent density sector, and the UK is definitely falling behind. I'm going to come to you, Omri, because you've got an amazing lens from a legal and sort of VC background of what can the UK do to position itself as the best place to start and grow a blockchain-based business?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Is it working? Yeah. Thanks for having me. My name is Omri, and I'm a lawyer at Outlier Ventures, which is one of the leading Web3 accelerators and VC. And it's great to work with, Stand With Crypto. Picking up on one of your points, I think that one of the starting points should be the tone, because we are seeing regularly on LinkedIn, the UK wants to establish itself as a leading hub for Web3. And on the one hand, I think the UK has done a good job when it comes especially to creating regulation. There is a good amount of conversations with stakeholders. Like, for example, before releasing a regulation, you have a process with consultation paper where people can provide feedback on the proposed regulation. There is more clarity than some other jurisdictions, say like the US, for example, especially when it comes to securities. But we also saw some regulation that came up that are not exactly favorable, especially to the founders, to the startups, because the cost of compliance is going up, becoming exorbitant. And so helping startup really starting out, understanding if there is product market fit, and then increasing regulation as the business scales, I think is very important. But right now they're facing this enormous barrier right out of the gate. So I think like lowering a bit the barrier to entry would be useful. And going back to the tone, having this a consistent approach also in terms of, well, if you want for the UK to be a hub, part of it comes down to making sure the regulation is clear from the point of view of what you can do, what you cannot do, but also creating incentives. If we look, for example, at the creative industries, say video game, movie production, there are tax incentives to incentivize the establishment of an ecosystem to attract talent to come here. And then new players are, it's justified for them to come to the UK because they know that they can access to the talent. So I think it's going to be a combination of part of it, making regulation a bit more tailored. Also, whenever there is a problem, everyone immediately, we need more regulation. Bear in mind, the more regulation comes out, the less free we become. So you want better regulation, not more regulation. And part of it, I think, is also narrative. So I think a positive voice can do a lot. If you look at FTX, the antichrist for blockchain, like day zero of start of the bull market, of the bear market. What I would say is that if you look at the traditional financial industries, like Bernie Madoff, it took 30 years for those pyramid schemes, the Ponzi schemes, to come out to come.
Well, at least we do things quickly then.
Exactly, we fail quick, which apparently is good. But and there are other use cases, like if you look at OpenSea with Nate, like the kind of insider trading, not insider trading. transparency is a valuable aspect, you know. But I would say, yeah, lowering barrier to entry and creating some incentive also from a tax perspective, perhaps that could work well.
Amazing. And we actually do have two founders on the panel who are integrating right now blockchain tech into their businesses. So Divya, I'm going to come to you first. Can you explain a little bit about what Jolyon does and how you've what tangible results you've been getting over the last couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Divya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Jolyon. We build train tickets on the blockchain, and we work very closely with the Welsh government and Transport for Wales. So one of the biggest problems in the industry is over 240 million is lost every year due to train and rail card fraud just here in the UK. And we are solving that problem at the root. In most cases, this particular sort of fraud is looked at after the ticket is purchased, but with cryptography and a self-validation technology, we are solving the problem at the root. And also, how many of you here actually live outside of London? Any? Yeah, great. So there you go. So, and have you noticed that there are times when the stations outside of London do not have gates? And this is another problem that we're trying to solve, where there are a few stations outside of London, not few, about 85% of the stations outside of London do not have gates. And so the cost of installing a gate and manning a gate runs into the millions. And with this sort of self-validation technology, you can avoid it completely and solve the problem at minimal cost. And what we also do is, the technology that we have introduced sits on top of the existing infrastructure. So you don't have to drastically change the infrastructure to a point where there is a whole set of rules and regulations we need to kind of build all over again. But actually, we're just using the existing technology and existing rules and regulation, building on top of it. So it makes it very easily retrofittable in the way we are going about it. And yeah, so where we are, we're going through a licensing process, and we are launching in November. We've got early signups to the tunes of tens of thousands whom we are onboarding as we speak. And yeah, in November, anybody who lives in Wales at all? Anybody here? No? Okay, well, if you're in Wales, you can use Jolyon in November. Yeah, that's us, I suppose, yeah.
Woo! Hopefully the blockchain tech will allow easier refunds, because I'm due a few from Southwest Trains for sure. But another amazing use case coming to you, Alex, is sustainability, carbon credits, these sorts of bits have always been, I guess, one of a gripe of blockchain. Everyone's saying Bitcoin uses too much power, but maybe you can shine some light on what blockchain is actually doing to improve sustainability.
Sure. Hey everyone, my name's Alex Taylor. I'm a co-founder of KlimaDAO. And KlimaDAO is trying to use Web3 and DeFi technology to improve the voluntary carbon markets. So the voluntary carbon markets are where carbon credits are traded between project developers who do impactful work on the ground, might be a renewable energy project, might be a reforestation project, as well as using kind of more innovative technologies, carbon dioxide removals. We're in the news a lot right now. Labour have just committed to fund a lot of carbon dioxide removal projects. And the carbon markets connect the kind of credits that these projects issue. A credit represents 1 ton of carbon dioxide with buyers, which are traditionally corporates who want to achieve a net zero target, or they want to achieve carbon neutrality. These markets, established about 20 years ago or so, they're primarily OTC markets where carbon credits are traded via phone calls, spreadsheets. It takes a long time for settlement to happen. Feels like a market that could be very well integrated with blockchain tech, specifically in our case, DeFi. So we use automated market makers, DEXs, to build liquidity for carbon credits and allow these carbon credits to be in an always-on market with extremely transparent pricing that can be accessed by both the project developers who are doing the good work. They have a counterparty that they can sell their credit straight into. And for buyers who may have to go through a broker or a consultant to actually access the carbon credits, which can take a number of months, they can instead come straight to our technology. This is important because the kind of margins and the friction within the carbon markets are quite well covered and quite severe. The carbon credit can have a 140% margin taken out of it within the middle of the market. That 140% is money that could be going to the project developers. If that money goes to the project developers, they've got more money to reinvest in the boots on the ground activity that does stuff for the climate. So KlimaDAO launched in 2021 with a mission to kind of do things differently, think about how tech can really solve for problems in the middle of the market, particularly around trading. And we've had quite a lot of success. We've facilitated the tokenization of 25 million carbon credits, about $5 billion worth of trading volume through our liquidity pool. So this is quite a lot. This is more volume in our liquidity pools than actually in the off-chain market. So this is a liquid, always-on market that people can access. And yeah, we're continuing to kind of try and innovate and think about how we can improve these markets and to kind of bring it back to the sort of initial question in terms of stand with crypto and kind of what we need, what we see is that people who are in our orbit, who we work with, maybe we've pre-financed their projects, maybe we're working with a corporate who's buying credits and they're using our tech, they quite like us and we have good relationships. People who are a bit further out of our orbit, think crypto, carbon, this could be a scam, this might not be good. And we experience a lot of the narratives that are kind of thrown at crypto and they hurt us. And we have to spend a lot of time and energy trying to combat this and say, no, here's the data that proves what we do. Here's the technology that we use so you can audit everything that we do. So the kind of softer stuff, I think Lisa was talking a lot about education, is super valuable to us because maturing the conversation around utility and around the benefits that blockchain can build brings immense value to us because we can get past that part and we can start to think about how we improve the markets.
Yeah, amazing. 5 billion is a ton of traction, so it's really impressive to see. And I'm going to come over to another trailblazer, Cap, who oversees a ton of projects and really interesting things. You had a big announcement about the UK yesterday. I don't know if you wanted to just touch on that and I guess what that means for the UK and building blockchain businesses.
Yeah, so I'm Cap. I lead ecosystem growth for Solana here in the UK. And the very cool thing that we was able to announce yesterday is that we are building a landmark here in London. The whole point will be being able to create a space for very best founders, creators, developers to all be able to come together in a single location. It's just by Liverpool Street. There will be co-working spaces. There's a restaurant, bar. There's a podcast studio so you can create all the content that you need. And the big thing that we hope that this is able to do, because as Katie was saying, the regulatory clarity needs to be improved here in the UK, and at the moment what it's causing is network effects to leave. We're seeing founders born in the UK but made overseas, and they're being able to, now what we're seeing is many things not being able to be set up here in the UK, and we're losing that little bit of magic. And so we hope that this location is able to bring that back and to be able to create that space for all of them to be able to come together, because when you're building a new business, you need support. And you need support across many different facets, whether that be from the legal side, whether that be from accounting, whether that be from a mentor who's already built the business that you want to be able to go through, or anything in between. And what we want to be able to generate in this environment is the energy that allows them to be uplifted and to move forward. And it's not just that we're opening this location and want to create this space, but we also want everybody to own it with us. And we really want to be able to allow the community to be at the front. And so that's why we're working with MetaWealth to be able to tokenize it. And anybody will be able to own a piece of it from as little as $100. And now we can have a fully owned, community-owned landmark in London, which we hope could be a beacon to the rest of the world, to let them know that the UK is ready to play, and we want to be able to push things forward. And even with regulators and policymakers, being able to show them that, look, it's happening in the city. You know, and we need that extra support, that clarity, in order to continue to drive it. And it's going to be beautiful to be able to see. Over the last year, we've been working with many different founders from across. We have what we call our Super Team UK, which is essentially a not-for-profit talent accelerator focused on either finding that top talent and helping them build their skills and get jobs in the ecosystem, or finding top founders and be able to connect them with who they need to be connected with to be able to drive things forward. And so it's exciting now that we're able to bring this into fruition. Anybody can sign up to the wait list now, and we're going to begin the process over the next few months, and it will be launching out early next year.
That's amazing. And I think that backing from Solana is very much, Stephen has been at the spearhead of pushing Solana in the UK. Last year at Breakpoint, he got a track winner in every hackathon track, which is absolutely incredible, helping push forward those UK founders, which is absolutely amazing. So Katie, I just wanted to circle back to you of, how do you see where we're currently positioned in the UK and like what's going to help us get further ahead in this coming sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunity for the UK is absolutely enormous, and I think that through a number of lenses. First of all, kind of supercharging the city. I think back to the first big bang for the City of London. That was, I think, digitalization was just as important as deregulation. And I really think that blockchain technology can be the kind of technological catalyst for the next big bang. And I think the government's thinking about the City of London, how it can reform, and I think blockchain technology will be absolutely kind of key to that. The current government's already talking about tokenization as a major priority, which I think is fantastic. I think there was a question on a panel yesterday when someone said, well, actually, is that very limiting because they're just talking about tokenization? And I think that's actually great that they're talking about tokenization. It means that they're getting comfortable with the space, they're thinking through the potential applications. But just think if as the city moves into tokenization, there's like huge opportunities there, also around kind of fractionalization, greater participation in financial markets, and I think that opens up a huge opportunity for the UK's capital markets more generally. And then I just think in the context of kind of payments, stablecoins is obviously a use case that we're kind of seeing up and running already. I think there's fantastic opportunities there. But what I really want to see is a regulatory framework that allows stablecoins to compete on a level playing field with other forms of digital money, whether that's CBDCs or tokenized deposits, whatever that may be. Because I think stablecoins, and linking back to the kind of tokenization debate, that stablecoins are the kind of cash settlement leg, can really kind of grease the kind of mechanics for tokenization in the city. So payments, stablecoins, another fantastic use case and opportunity for the UK. And then I think a third piece is just around like Web3. We all know that the UK and Europe more generally lost out on the first wave of innovation towards the kind of first wave of the internet. I really want to see the UK kind of leaning into Web3, getting on front of all that innovation. But then just like finally, we've been talking about founders, but I think a lot of people think about kind of crypto assets and blockchain technology in terms of the kind of the City of London, in terms of kind of crypto assets, digital assets, and less so about all the innovation that's happening and being driven by founders. And just think about all the founders that are building and driving real-world social utility on the blockchain. And imagine the kind of the growth, the innovation and jobs that can drive across the UK. So I think the opportunity for the UK is absolutely huge. And I think it's incumbent on us, all of us, to be talking about that opportunity so that policymakers can realize that ambition. And I think in terms of where we are, I think the previous government was very vocal in terms of what they wanted the UK to do. I don't think we'll necessarily get the same kind of big gestures from this government, but I still feel very positive in terms of the direction of travel. We had the digital property bill, which was published a few weeks ago, which is around digital property rights for digital assets. And if you look at the press release, the government says that we published this very early on in our mandate because we want the UK to be leading the race in the kind of attracting digital asset firms to the UK. And I think that was the first big moment that the UK made a statement, the new UK government made a statement on its ambitions around digital assets. So I think that was a very positive first move. I mentioned that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and the City Minister are talking about tokenization. Again, very positive that they're leaning into that debate. Now, no doubt there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And what we want to see now is them moving at speed on the legislation that I talked about. But I feel very, very positive about the direction of travel.
Amazing. Well, it's always good to be positive. And I was going to just, moving on from that, well, obviously small businesses are a big thing. I don't know if, Omri, you could give a little bit of flavor of like, what are the biggest challenges facing, some of your portcos? Are they getting enough talents coming to the UK? And, how do you think we can work through those?
Yeah, what do you see? And like part of what I'm sharing is also from my experience working, as a lawyer in a law firm and advising clients. So, which, is very relevant to UK businesses because, of course, those were UK businesses. So what I would say is that what you see effectively happening in the UK because of the current regulatory framework is a project with a lot of talent and great idea comes around. They want to launch their product. They're unable to do so because of a few reasons. Because normally, if you think about blockchain product, not all of them involve token, but token represent, a strong proposition as an incentive, as there are different reasons for that. The problem is that, issuing token from the UK, it's challenging because you need to register with the Financial Conduct Authority. Promoting the launch of the token is difficult because of financial promotion, whether you're in the UK or outside of the UK and you want to offer the services within. So you have this regulatory barrier, and what happens is projects normally then are forced to open separate structure abroad or move abroad, and that is taking talent away from the UK, which is a shame because I think there are a lot of very talented founders that come from the UK, and then potentially, if we don't accommodate a better regulatory framework soon, we potentially are going to lose them to other jurisdictions that are turning themselves into very attractive propositions, through regulation. So I'd say that that's, the cost, but sometimes it's not even a question of cost. Sometimes it's a question of the type of business is just not structured or designed to be able to comply with the regulation. Think about, for example, I know you talked about stablecoin, which is very interesting, by the way, for also other reasons, because they're becoming very prevalent in economies where underpinned by currencies that are weaker than, say, the more traditional USD and GBP. But you see also other use cases, because when we talk about blockchain, we're talking about infrastructure. For example, DePIN, I don't know if everyone is familiar with it, but decentralized physical infrastructure networks, that allows every one of us potentially to play a role in service provision, data creation, data harnessing. So thanks to technologies that we already have in our pocket, we can already contribute and get rewarded for it. So there is a lot of potential, not just in terms of, okay, I'm a service provider in the UK, I'm going to offer services in the UK if the regulation allows me to, but it's also, there is potential to reframe a bit what it means to provide a service. How can I get rewarded? And I hope that materializes, but right now the barrier, I would say, is that regulation takes into account, it's more catered, I would say, to traditional financial services provider or follows that particular type of path, and that might not be suitable for every type of business that operates in the space.
Yeah, there's a myriad of problems, but it definitely helps when you have the guidance of someone like OV. But I don't know if Cap also wanted to share his kind of insights on that, seeing from the foundation perspective, bringing those projects in and the talent.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to look at, because you have many different types of founders. You have like the very first early founders, like their first startup that they're doing, and then one that's already experienced, exited, and is going on to their next adventure. One thing, because we work a lot with the grassroots as well, with the people building in the UK, and I think one side of like the early founders who this is their first adventure that they're going into, is that they just need connecting with people. They need to have people in that journey that they can know to, and you need these like watering holes for them to be able to meet with people so that they could continue. And it's like great events like ZB Live bring everyone all together so you can get access to that person that you need to be able to speak to, because being able to meet with someone in real life is so important. Like the conversation you're able to have feels different, and the version that you're able to go through that. But then you also need like a structured process. You need like a pathway to go through. And what I'm hoping to see is like there's some really cool Web3 accelerators. Like you have like Outlier Ventures, you've got teams like Entrepreneur First that are tapping into different areas, but then you've got like Alliance DAO, Solana Incubator, like you've got a lot of really cool accelerators that are coming through, and being able to allow our founders like access and fast tracks into these, I think are really helpful so that they're able to, those early stage founders that say that student who's 22, is hungry, ready, wants to be able to build something, but needs that extra little bit of guidance to be able to go through and get that support that they need. This is where like that regulatory frameworks, those legal, those even like accounting and tax and everything that basically a founder doesn't think about when they're building their business, because they want to build a product. They want to help a market. They want to be able to do something great and hopefully change the world in their very small way. There's all of these other pieces that need to be kind of built into that. And I'm curious around how policymakers and regulators are able to also be a part of that journey with them, so that when young founders coming through, or I'm at university, I'm deciding what I want to do. Rather than going into like the traditional industry of like investment banking, lawyers, or any of the normal pathways that they traditionally see, they're actually saying, hey, I want to take a risk. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to like bet, everyone's going to bet against me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I know if I go down this path, there's support and there's stages and there's a journey to be able to go through. And hopefully that, again, harnesses the innovation. When A16Z came to London and set up their office, one of the things they talked about was like, how do we bring that Silicon Valley vibes to the UK and to London. And I think a big part of that is the risk element of the students willing to take the risk, investors willing to back the students coming through, and all of those then pieces that then are lying up there to hopefully make sure that when the founders are coming through, they're not making the mistakes because they've had people tell them earlier on enough that these are where the hurdles will be able to come through. So the mistakes that they're making are very different to ones that like are replicable across every startup, and we're able to see that innovation foster and come out with that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely a great answer. So we have time, we have 2 or 3 minutes left. We have time for 1 or 2 audience questions if anyone does have anything to fire across to our amazing panel here. I don't know, someone's going to have to ask a question. Be brave.
When running spaces, like, how do you feel about people who are like eccentric and maybe stand out a bit, like are intolerant of that, or like you know, do you realize that maybe like that's kind of what you need to like have innovation?
I think you'll find a lot of founders are eccentric. You know, you need that little bit of like, I'm willing to take the risk, willing to innovate. One thing that we just have across the board is that we're empathetic, but also respectful. And we want to make sure that the space that we're able to create is shared with like love, shared with like cool. We want to be able to help and grow, but then we're also able to like stand tall and be able to make sure that we're being respectful across like to everybody in the space. Because then that creates the positive energy that you need in order to attract and make sure that people want to be there and want to be able to support one another through.
We've got a question just over here. Thanks so much.
Is there anything that you're afraid of in terms of the way this industry is going?
Who's the question to?
Go for it, Katie.
So I think one thing I'm afraid of the misconceptions around crypto assets and blockchain technology, particularly when we're talking to policymakers. So, and I can give you a flavor of some of the misconceptions that I am met with when we're engaging with policymakers. So the first misconception I always get faced with is, blockchain technology good, but tokens bad. And we have to explain to them, well, actually, they're inextricably linked, and one powers the other, and there's a lot of education that needs to be done around that. Second misconception I often get is crypto assets, it's only about speculation. That's all it is. And we have to say, well, for example, I may hold ETH because I think the price may go up, but actually I hold ETH because I may want to send an NFT, and I need to pay for gas fees and all that kind of thing. So, and I think that's particularly important in the context of regulation, because it's often financial services regulators that are thinking about regulating the sector, but they also need to think about the kind of the real world utility of these assets as well. And I think that's really important. Another misconception, I've thought of another one. Backed crypto good, unbacked crypto bad. So stable coins fine, everything else in a different bucket. And what we have to say to policymakers is that's not, unbacked crypto is not a monolithic bucket. You've got kind of ETH in there as well as meme coins, and there's a role for all different types of kind of crypto assets. Meme coins play a very important role. We let people buy kind of pins, for example, so people should be able to purchase meme coins, but then you've also got ETH, and that plays a very different role. And again, what does that mean for the kind of regulatory framework? And so we're having to unpick all these different arguments and really educate policymakers as they're thinking about the kind of regulatory framework that they're designing. So biggest fear for me are just misconceptions around the sector generally.
Yeah, I can take a stab at your question as well, because we've, I guess, got a unique perspective. So we launched 2021, took a pretty large risk, I guess, with what we did, DeFi project for carbon credits. And I think there's a big threat to what we're doing, because I think some of the best bits of our technology that we kind of incubated, launched, is kind of being taken by competitors, but those competitors are very large financial institutions. And it's not a bad thing per se. I think the technology is good and great if they use it and they can address those issues I was talking about with like margins taken out the middle of the market. What's annoying is that these institutions have relationships with the kind of so-called gatekeepers of the market. The carbon markets are an unregulated commodity market, so the gatekeepers are NGOs, and they can make the rules up as they wish. So we really struggle to get an audience and make a case with these gatekeepers. They don't want to talk to us. We're crypto, we're DeFi, we're not good. Whereas these large financial institutions have taken what we've we've built, and they are launching products with these gatekeepers. And so for me, this feels anti-competitive in some respects. They're kind of not letting the innovators showcase themselves. We kind of have to work around the edges. We have to find carbon from registries that are maybe a bit more innovative, a bit more open-minded. But I assume this is probably going to happen, if it's not already, across the Web3 crypto space, where there's this kind of like this regulatory kind of level is being created that only certain types of organizations can access. And the kind of innovators who took all the risk on, experimented, did something good, are going to kind of lose some of the best bits of their work. So I see that as a threat to the kind of DeFi community, not to blockchain per se. I think blockchain is going to get adopted, and it's going to make phenomenal improvements across a lot of markets. But yeah, there is a threat to the kind of guys like us.
Actually, I could just quickly add. Sorry, I could quickly add to that. So, Naz, yeah, to your point, when we started off building tickets on the blockchain, there's a lot of misconception around crypto and NFTs and different sort of digital assets. So we had to kind of first educate, because this is a public sector organization. We had to educate them, let them know take them through the journey, really. So you talk to them about crypto, talk to them about NFTs, how NFTs can be used, for other sort of utilities within business. And so it's a journey. You've got to take them through that journey, explain to them about the different possibilities of you have like a gamut of things that you can do within the crypto space. So you can take them through that journey, tell them what each one of these assets mean, and then how we can bring utility to the blockchain using NFTs. And this is how we went about it. Yeah.
Can I add just one super quick thing?
Getting
Biggest fear,
flagged.
I would say, yeah, that's a great question. Like we start here like to compete for. No, but I'd say the biggest fear is to lose too much talent before we create a regulatory framework and environment that is conducive to founders. I think that's the biggest fear, because you'd want to be a part of a community, like Cap was saying, where you can meet with other talent and improve on products and beyond. So that's the biggest fear for me.
Amazing. Well, I was going to say, Alex, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So keep building amazing stuff and people will copy it. But that's all we have time for today. Remember, if you want to be part of the Stand With Crypto movement, just swamp Katie after. She'll help you get signed up, whether you want to be a partner, an advocate, invited to all of the amazing events that they're going to be running in the next sort of 12 months. We'd love to have you as part of the movement. It's such an important thing for the UK, whether it's an event, you're running a project, or you're just passionate about the positive change that you think blockchain tech can bring about. But finally, can you just give a massive round of applause to the amazing panelists that we have here?